And I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us, and one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it, and that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
Welcome back to Tinfoil Tales. I'm your host, Brandon Wright. Tonight's episode, we're going to be joined by my guest, Matt. Matt is from Canada. He hosts a show called Loyal to the Foil, so we kind of have that little bit of a connection already together. But there's a lot of things that go on up in Canada and some conspiracy stuff that Matt has researched into for stuff that goes on all around the world, especially here in America. So there's a lot of things we're going to talk about here tonight. I'm definitely looking forward to talking with Matt. Before we bring him on, though, if you ever had an experience or a story you want to share and you want to be on an episode of Tinfoil Tales, make sure to send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com or go to tinfoiltales.com and go to the contact section. Just make sure to get a message to me, and we will get something scheduled for a future episode. If you would like to help the podcast out, please share it around. Word of mouth is what helps the podcast grow. You can also leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to Tinfoil Tales at, and that helps with the algorithms and makes the podcast more discoverable. If you're like me and don't like having all the ads on your episodes, you can check into the Patreon. For $1.99 a month, you get early access to all the episodes, and they're all ad-free. There's some exclusive content on there, too. There is a paid tier and a free tier, so make sure to look into it. More information about that is in the show notes. Make sure to follow me on all the social medias. And if you're interested in wearing some Tinfoil Tales gear, make sure to reach out to me, and I can make sure to arrange that. We're going to go ahead now and bring Matt on and dive into the conversation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I'd like to take this time to welcome my guest tonight, Matt. Thanks for coming on here and talking to me.
No problem, Brandon. Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate the invite.
Would you like to let the audience know a little bit about yourself?
Sure, appreciate it. I am I'm a Canadian-based independent researcher, anti-conformist theorist. I run a couple different social media platforms. You can find my content just about everywhere under the title Loyal to the Foil. I also run a podcast that's on all the streaming platforms. Other than that, man, honestly, I've been in this space, whatever people want to call us, nutters, anti-conformist theories, conspiracy theorists. I've been in this space for quite a long time. It kind of all started with 9/11 when I was just a 21-year-old snot-nosed punk kid, and just kind of had snowballed from there.
That is kind of where it worked with me, too. I was a senior in high school when that happened.
So I'm only just a little bit older than you. Yeah, I was 21 years old. I was sleeping, and I got woken up to the news, and it just happened that like I said, I'm Canadian. I was born in Toronto, grew up in the area, and as I got older, I moved away. I live about an hour away from Toronto now, not even. And that's where I lived when it all happened. And I remember just being woken up, and my mom, she worked in Toronto, but she was actually having meetings in the city that I lived in. So I drove over right away and sat in this hotel lobby that she was working in that day, and we watched everything unfold. And then I just, I'll never forget thinking. I mean, I was thinking a million different things, and horrified and confused and angry, it just the run on emotions was unbelievable. But not something really never sat well with me that day. That was kind of my genesis of it, other than the fact that I've never fully trusted NASA. I mean, that was something that I've been diving down for over 20 years, laughing about it, looking at it. And it's just, my interest has only gotten deeper. My love, my quest for knowledge and everything's only gotten deeper 9/11 is one of the things that I've probably gone most in depth into in my, in my whole conspiracy quest, other than I guess maybe just hidden history and kind of the things that's going on. Hidden history is kind of my jam, and I love talking about 9/11. And I mean, being a Canadian is kind of wild because I sit and watch so many Americans still believe, official narratives, which, I don't like to get disrespectful about, but it's really, I'm sure you kind of feel the same way. It's really frustrating, just watching people buy into everything they're fed, when there's so much information that can back up, the opposite side of the spectrum, right?
I talk to people that are quote unquote conspiracy people, but they seem to be more of the ones that want to disprove all the conspiracies, which is fine because I'm not saying you shouldn't try and disprove things because I'm very skeptical a lot of the time too. But I feel like for them, they are more or less saying that a lot of this stuff is all just like all the information's out there. Everything's out there for you to find. Nothing's hidden. Nothing's a conspiracy. Everywhere it's just the government just doesn't know. They don't have the control. I was like, you almost sound like a plant.
Yeah, see that's kind of tough because I mean, of course, I mean, like in from I'm only speaking on my beliefs and my opinions. And
Right.
anybody, any of your viewers, obviously, I'm the type of, conspiracy theorist that wants people to disagree with me. I want to be able to have, the tough conversations. And I don't mind if you disagree with me. It's just all I ever say is, let's just do it respectfully, like people used to do until, everything is vilified and everything. So, I hear that. I get that. The information I think is out there. And I think in my opinion, it's because they only live by a few different, kind of rules, and karma is one of them. And I think a lot of people don't really understand what tacit agreements are either, which essentially boils down to the fact that they're going to tell you what they're going to do, and you're not going to do or say anything about it, which is giving them permission to do so. So, of course, the information's out there. Of course, some of it gets redacted and things like that. But as far as even just the term, I mean, my show is called Loyal to the Foil, so I step into it. As I know, obviously, with your show, you do. I mean, most of us step into being called that. I don't mind being called that. It's just the fact that a lot of people say those words and still don't know what the definitions are. I'm like, I hear it's like ignorant. The word ignorant. I hear a lot of people use that word and never knowing what it means, and it's literally just the fact that you don't know something, right? It's not an insult. A conspiracy theorist to me is a funny one because I mean, of course, those terms have been around forever, but I mean, they only really came hard into play with the JFK assassination and the CIA and the American government and the Mossad trying to cover up, people actually questioning the official narrative. I mean, to conspire is just we're conspiring right now, right? To have an idea for two or more people to have an idea and talk about it, you're conspiring, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and the other thing, I mean, like theory, okay, well, gravity is still just a theory. So the way that they're able to villainize these words and make them, so taboo really is amazing. And it really just shows you that there's a lot of what I like to call just goldfish out there. They don't remember things, they don't absorb knowledge. It's kind of just tell me what to be angry about next, right? So I kind of embrace it. I like talking about it. I like talking to people like you. I like talking to people, as many people as I can, to see what see what their views are. And if they disagree with it and they want to debunk it, great. Like I've always found that the best people that talk about things like, globe Earth or round Earth, it's always people that want to go in disproving it, that find that they can't find information, or they find information that disproves them. Whatever it is that happens, as long as you admit that you've been wrong, who cares? You know what I mean? Move on, get the right information, and keep going, right?
It is funny that when I first started doing this show, and I'm not saying I'm a flat earther, I'm not saying I'm a globe tard is what they're called, but I have a lot of questions because when I first started doing the show, I knew the world was round because it just doesn't make any sense. But then when you start to actually go down the rabbit hole, you start to question a lot of things. And I've never trusted NASA in the first place just because even as a kid, and I've said this before, I never felt like we went to the moon. I don't know why. I just didn't believe it. Even as a kid, like it sounded great and everything, but I don't know why. I struggled to believe we really went to the moon. And I just, if they're lying about that, What else are they lying about?
I
And
think they're lying about everything.
I didn't think that the moon didn't exist and we couldn't go to it or anything like that. I just thought that they made it up because they had to beat Russia. Like they had to beat the
Yeah,
Soviet Union to get to the moon.
yeah.
And then I thought it was strange as a teenager when I was trying to look into things about the moon landings, and when I found out we only went there a few times and they stopped going because they said everyone lost interest in the moon and then they destroyed all the technology. Well, that seems dumb. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don Pettit is my favorite NASA employee. He sounds like their number one DEI hire to me, honestly. If you've ever heard him speak, he's absolutely golden. The interviews that they cut from it, yeah, I mean, I agree that that's amazing that you said that. I love that because about the globe Earth and round Earth, and the reason that I agree with you is because, like I say to my son all the time, he's 8 years old and he's got more knowledge than most of the people that I speak to on a daily basis, just because he's open to questioning things. But when it comes to round Earth or flat Earth, whatever it may be, the reason that I say I don't know is because I haven't seen it myself. So similar to you, I don't trust what they have to say. Um, and I don't have any reason to. If you can't produce after, you take $63 million away per day from people in order to fund this corporate arm of the government, and you can't show us one authentic picture of the planet, I'm sorry, but you don't have any credibility to me. Um, the the fact that to be honest with you, what I've in the last year, it's probably only just been about the last year that I have fully 100% just admitted to myself that I think that everything that I ever thought I knew about just NASA as a whole is a lie. I mean, I know who created it, I know who funded it, I know where they came up with it, I know why they came up with it, but I don't really think I understood that NASA isn't a space. To me, NASA is not a space agency. They are the military industrial complex, and they are an arm of, you know, not just the American government, but worldwide governments. This is why they can tell you like, oh, we're going to go and do this. It's going to cost this. You're not going to get any information. It's not really going to help anything. But it helps to propagandize kids from a very early age. And I mean, ultimately, they do what they want to do. Nobody ever questions them. I don't know how many times they ever get audited, but the fact that they have to have Elon Musk do all this work for them with whatever videos those are that he's been showing lately, that proves to you. Like, I don't. You're American, obviously. Now, as far as I remember, I think it was 2017 when the U.S. government announced that NASA was going out of business. They were going defunct. And then all of a sudden, everybody seemed to forget about that, and they were still kind of just floating around. And I thought, well, what the fuck? What are they doing? And then you see, their space program is 100% reliant on, Boeing. Um, Sorry, I forget. Lockheed Martin
yeah,
and SpaceX, right? So SpaceX, they just hire, and like I said, that's a corporate arm. So they're just hiring another spurt of another person or company to do the work that they're telling everybody they do, right? No, I don't trust them. And I also, people could call me Flurfer or Floon or whatever it is, Globetrot. I don't know. I don't know what shape it is, but as far as people saying, it's got to be round, it's got to be round. Well, I mean, if you trust this D grade actor Neil deGrasse Tyson, even he says it's not. So I mean, they can never really give you a real solid answer. Um, as far as anybody that's ever gone to space, I mean, as far as I've ever checked, there has never been somebody that isn't a Freemason that's ever gone to space. They've never left low Earth orbit since 1968 or 1972, I believe. There's just too much. Like I was actually planning on doing an episode on Kubrick and his involvement in everything that kind of went along with Space 2001 and the NASA bullshit, I guess. But I just haven't got there. There's a lot of things that I got to finish up. But I mean, yeah, NASA, yeah, that's where it started for me was NASA and 9/11, and then it's just like I said, it's just snowballed from there.
I was always interested in Antarctica, why we're not allowed to go there, but apparently this was brought to my attention. So I did more research into it, and you can make a cruise trip down to Antarctica, but I don't know like what all you can see or what all they actually do. But I've
Maybe
always
for a couple
thought,
hours, yeah.
I always thought Antarctica, if they signed that treaty and no one could actually go there
Mhm.
unless you were on like a scientific expedition and you had to get authority to go there. So I was always like, well, what's down in Antarctica? And I don't know. I don't think anyone actually really, everyone has theories, just like the theory of Earth and being flat, round, whatever. At the end of the day, for me, though, and I've said this before, and I don't think it set well with whoever I was talking to, but I don't really give a shit. To be 100% honest, if they're lying about it being this, I was like, well, what else? They lie all the time. I'm not going to be surprised one way or the other. At the end of the day, I
Yeah.
still got to get up and go to work. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I found out the Earth is actually flat. That means I'm done working now. It doesn't work that way. We're all slaves of the machine at this point. Like, we have no choice but to continue on because that's just how we're programmed to do at this point.
Yeah, I think the only difference would be if there is like people would say, well, what's the point? If they are lying, then that means there's plenty more land, plenty more water, plenty more of everything, which kind of changes the dynamic of just about everything. But same, yeah, I mean, it's not going to affect me in my lifetime or probably any generation even relatively close to me, because it's just not going to happen. But I did the same thing. Yeah, it's 159 countries, I believe, that all signed the Antarctic Treaty. So all these countries that they want you to believe that they are neck and neck within nuclear war all still agree that nobody can go there, and it's for our safety. And if you go anywhere near it, you'll be shot for your safety. Like none of it makes sense. And it just the timing lines up perfectly as well. Like NASA is formed a year after or 2 years after the Antarctic Treaty is formed. And if you look at who is involved in the formation, L.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Hubbard, Jack Parsons, Walt Disney, like all the list of scumbags, the list of five scumbags, right? It's just it's all seemingly done to me for a reason. The symbolism is there, the Masonic symbolism is there, the Illuminati symbolism is there. And I mean, if people don't see it, then I get it. But if once you do see it, you can't unsee it.
Right. There's a lot of that throughout history in general,
Hmm.
but there's a lot of symbolism. There's a lot of things, and I've talked about Masonic stuff here and there and Illuminati, but for me, it's like, at what point does it really matter? Like, we we all say, oh, if we can get united and then we can go, there we outnumber them, all of us, but I don't ever foresee us just all joining forces together. Be like, no, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to do things our way because no one gets along.
Agreed. And I think they're the biggest part of that. I mean, when you say, what does it matter? I get that, but at the same time, I mean, but then you kind of like right after that, you say, well, if we did, things would change. And I mean, as far as like I said, I go like what I enjoy doing, like I said earlier, is hidden history. I do a lot of work on what's called the cult of Baal, which is essentially the compartmentalization structure of all of the entities, that are the controlling factors, like the
Mm-hmm.
1%. People think, it's it's the American government, or it's Bill Gates, or these people are foot soldiers. And I mean, foot soldiers is kind of being nice. The powers, I mean, I've noticed that over the last couple of years, a lot more people are starting to get a lot more familiar with the names, the families that do run this. But I mean, that ultimately, like we are saying, in order to fight back, of course, there's way more of us. We could hypothetically, we could absolutely take over, take this realm, this world back over if we were to overtake them. But the compartmentalization structure that they have, when you see it all and realize that there's even more that you don't see within, the chart that I like to use, it's ridiculous. It's so deep, and I mean, this arm doesn't know that there is another arm, and it's the biggest compartmentalization, scheme that I've ever seen. And you're exactly right. We do not have anywhere near the structure set up in order to go against them, because we kind of have to mirror what they do. And I mean, we have nothing in comparison to what they do. Um,
I feel
and
like
people want. Hmm?
I was gonna say, I feel like they also have all of the technology and weapons on their side too.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And that a lot of people there's now whistleblowers talking about the technology that they have in Antarctica, the tornado machines or the weather models, all kinds of different things that they can trigger from there. I don't know because I haven't seen it, but what I do know is, yeah, that they absolutely have that. And I mean, a lot of the time they don't even need weapons. They can put us against each other, right? Like,
Hmm.
my neighbor, my mom, my brother, whoever it may be, they have to do is just kind of put a little doubt in your mind about something, or that your friend is wrong about this. Oh, you didn't get a jab, then you're a racist, misogynistic, fucking psychopath. I mean, the craziness that they put out into the ether is really what gets us. We're arguing with each other when we could be arguing with them. And I mean, that's one of the things that I like to do on my show and social media is expose the names. And like I say, and it is going a little bit deeper. There have been a lot of people that there are a lot of people I think that this is all controlled by Freemasons or by this person or that person. Ultimately, like to me, in my personal opinion, it boils down to what I call the Council of 13, the 13 family bloodlines that ultimately do and have run the world since for thousands of years. As well as a couple other families, the Wallenberg family and one other family that I will never say on any podcast or write out anywhere because it'll just get taken down. But um, in order to fight back, we need to come together. I mean, if there's only 13 families and all the bloodlines branch off from there, there's a lot of them. There's definitely a lot of them. But I mean, you just in America, you guys outnumber them by yourselves, right? So it's like we could do it, but I don't foresee it anytime either. I have to agree with you there.
As much as we all want to talk about becoming free, I don't think we have enough smarts, I guess I'll use, to be able to pull it off and then still manage to keep going and surviving, because I feel like, again, we are programmed to always be at each other's throats one way or the other. Even if we're trying to do something unified, someone else is going to get mad. They're not getting their portion. They're not getting their. There's just too much turmoil when you get people involved.
Yeah, a lot of people, some people don't know their place, or they want to, you even see it in the conspiracy community now. I see it all the time where people just, they want to be first. They don't want to be right. They want to be first. And they're barking at each other. Like we had it here in Canada not long ago when we had what people call the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa fighting back against government mandates. There were people within the group that started going against each other. And it's like, guys, I mean, put your egos aside. This is supposed to be for a reason that's not going to do anything, but a reason that's, supposed to be togetherness and fighting back against them. And, somehow you're right. Something always gets lynched in there and it throws everything off. They don't have that. I mean, yeah, there's infighting, within the scumbags, the Illuminati, the order of the Illuminati. Thank you, Mr. Weishaupt. Um, but it's just the way that they do it is so much better. And that's the other thing too, is that you're right on, is even if we tried to, we still have to go to work, right? And who owns those companies that we work for? Well, they do, right? So it's like, no matter what we do, it always seems like it's an uphill battle, but it's a really steep uphill battle. And I mean, I don't know if it'll ever change. I don't even know if this world, this realm will make it to that point before maybe we destroy each other and trying or not trying. I don't know. Um, I love that people have faith, though. I really do. Like, I appreciate people that, create content or podcasts or just, do the research, try and share information with each other. At least, I rest my head every night knowing that at least I tried, kind of thing.
Kind of how I feel at this point. I I give a platform for people to talk about their experiences or things they want to talk about. It's in the fringe realm or conspiracy realm too. But other than that, like, I'm just trying to get people to open their eyes.
Mhm.
And I don't know what else. Like, there's no way I can. This is my way of, I guess, making a difference, of attempting to make a difference. But at the same time, it's like what I mentioned earlier. Like, what all can we honestly do? It's like
All we do is just keep fighting. Yeah.
right. Like, this is instead of taking up arms and trying to start a rebellion and getting a random bullet from being a terrorist. I mean, this is
Yeah.
until they start cracking down on what we can put out there openly. which they've already tried doing, and I've had that happen to me a few times on good old YouTube. But that is the only thing that really can happen right now is we can talk about stuff like this, but they demonetize you, they shadow ban you, they push your stuff out of the way and bury it.
Yep.
From-
Yeah.
You're from
That's the key. I
Canada,
mean,
and you
yeah.
mentioned earlier that there's a lot of stuff up there that happens. So if you want to talk about some of that, I definitely want to get into it.
Yeah, for sure. Excuse me. Um, I have my personal experience with kind of getting, rolling with the pushback that I personally started getting. It started with Fluvid, and it went from there. I started kind of pushing back on narratives, and then making my voice heard, taken to social media. I have been heavily shadow banned, deplatformed, demonetized, called all kinds of names and whatever it is. And ultimately, I don't care. 10 years ago, I would have. 20 years ago, I definitely would have. Now, it doesn't bother me. I know that what I did and what I tried to do and what I'm still trying to do was for my family, was for my wife and my son, to make sure that they were safe, to make sure that we did everything we could to make sure that we were making the right decisions. And in the process of that, of course, it started with, it went along hand in hand with what our supreme leader here has been doing. And for your audience, I am Canadian. You guys know the name of our prime minister, but I don't say his name. I won't say his name, and I'll get into why. Um, when this started happening, what happened in Canada was, a few years ago, our supreme leader paid 600 to 630 million dollars to the media corporations. And in Canada, there aren't many media corporations, for let's say for TV and internet, for your cell phones. We have two service providers. We have what's called Bell, and we have Rogers. They're old companies. They have a monopoly on the system. They're not going to change it. A number of years ago, American cell phones companies tried to come into the market, and they wouldn't even allow them to use their cell phone towers. So they went back away. So the prices are always high. There's nothing you can do about it. So um, our supreme leader started, realizing, well, we need to start paying these corporations to parrot the information that we want them to say. Now, he tried to pass it off as he was giving them money to hire more people so that they had more people in these corporations. There's companies like CP24, which is City Pulse. There is CBC, and a couple other ones. And what happened was, actually they started laying employees off, not hiring more. So I mean, it's the same it kind of mirrors what the United States does. It's everything that they say that they're doing. It's generally the opposite. You and I talked about our feelings on politics before we started this, and I think we're kind of in the same boat here.
Hmm.
I'm not discrediting our supreme leader because I approve of the opposite. And his name is Peter Polyev. He is the leader of the Conservative Party. The supreme leader is the leader of the Liberal Party. Um, the differences, I mean, I don't believe that there is a different difference. It's always just blue versus red. They've been doing this for hundreds and thousands of years, just pitting you one versus the other. But what our supreme leader has done in the last several years he's created bills in Canada. There's C18. There is one that they just passed. It went into the House in 2022, and actually is just starting to gain a lot of momentum. It looks like it's going to pass without any of our vote, by the way. So in Canada, we don't get to, when these bills and laws get passed, we don't have any insight to it. We rarely even get wind that it's happening. It's people like independent journalists like myself or other beautiful people that actually find the information and put it out there. So 263 is going to, and C18, they pass it off as a child safety act. Well, what it really is they're stifling any sort of content creators. They're stifling people sharing news on, platforms, places like Facebook and things like that. Like I was saying to you earlier, if you were to post something on your page on Facebook, you would see exactly what you posted. What I would see is I would see Brandon's Tinfoil Tales and then a box in there that says this content cannot be shown in Canada. And then I don't see anything. It doesn't matter if it's a picture, a news articles cannot be shared in Canada. So if I have a news article, I basically have to write it myself, or I have to copy and paste, and then I have to grab a picture of it to try and get people's attention to see what the information is, because our supreme leader doesn't think that you're smart enough to understand what's best for you. So it's his decision. And then when he's wrong, he takes no accountability for it. So of course, it sounds similar to most political parties in the United States.
Right.
When people started speaking out here in Canada, uh, I started my podcast almost 2 years ago, and shortly after, I started. I also started a Twitter or X account, and it was actually just a stick up for a friend of mine that was being called out for what happened at the truckers' convoy in Ottawa. Um, so I mean, our algorithms, when they don't know what you're into yet, sometimes to me, sometimes they'll show you things that are going to, infuriate you. And my Twitter algorithm started feeding me tweets from our supreme leader. And because I'm an asshole and a big mouth, I started tweeting him back. And we all noticed that within 8 hours of me sending a direct tweet to our supreme leader that my bank account was frozen. Um, I don't know if that happens in the United States a lot. I'm sure it doesn't because your population absolutely dwarfs ours. But this is something where if it does, I don't care if you're a single person or you're a family person like I am. When you go to work 40 to 80 hours a week and bust your ass to try and just keep your head above water, that money that you earn is essential. And I've had numerous conversations with bank employees over the phone, in person. I've spoken to bank managers, and none of them ever was able to give me a reason why this happened. My personal bank account's been frozen over 10. I stopped keeping track at 10. It's probably around 13 to 14, and it's always usually coincides with something that I said. The last time that it got frozen, when I actually tweeted to someone that I speak to occasionally, a guy named Sam Tripoli. Um, I tweeted something to him that he retweeted, and within hours, my account was frozen again. I didn't even put it out into the ether against our supreme leader or anything. It was just, a kind of well-known conspiracy guy that retweeted my stuff, and boom, there it was again. So it's banking information. They are, everybody thought the CBDCs were all that wasn't going to happen in Canada. It is. We have five major banks in Canada. All of them have signed off on digital currency, so it won't be long before that takes full effect here as well. Um, as far as the rest of the censorship, I mean, if you have any questions, please hit me up with them. But I mean, it's when people think that Canada is great, I can honestly say that the people are amazing. People are beautiful. Not nearly enough of them are awake yet. But when it comes to government and things like that, we're in a lot of trouble. And I think that me personally, I think that we're relying on what happens in America, to kind of right the ship.
Now, with your supreme leader, how often do they do, like, what is the terms for them? I'm not sure. Like here for us, they have 2 term limits, so 8 years maximum. What is for
They
them
have,
up there?
he either has to be voted out or die.
So there's no limit.
No, no limit. I actually, to be honest with you, brother, I actually cover because I've been so heavily shadow banned and deplatformed and, basically screwed with financially. I don't even talk about, like, I have a Canadian podcast and I can't even talk about Canadian politics on my own show for fear of censorship and cancellation. Shortly after I started my podcast and started tweeting him, he also asked the CRTC, which is basically the board that governs all radio and TV. He asked them to take a big chunk of money and go through every single podcast and regulate them as well. So in Canada right now, if I violate something that is under this ridiculously wide array of sanctions, there are no guidelines for these bills that they're passing. It's basically just an open policy to figure out where they want to go with you. But as it stands right now, it is a $75,000 fine plus a life term in prison, which in Canada is 25 years. So if I say something that he doesn't like, or if anybody says something that he doesn't like, you're looking at that. It's not just one or the other. It's $75,000 plus 25 years in jail. Um, and it doesn't look like he's going anywhere soon. I actually tweeted out a couple of days ago that I thought he was going to step down. It looks like he's got 24 of his own MPs that are actually demanding that he step down. And I don't think it's because they think he's a bad person, because most of them are all scumbags. It's because they don't think he's going to win the next election. And I cover your politics a lot more because I understand them more, which is wild because I'm here, but in Canada, it's weird. Like I said, it's either he dies or he gets voted out. And there was supposed to be an election next year, a federal election next year, but it looks like there might actually be one next month because there's so much upheaval in what's happening right now in Canada with government and just basically with the cost of living. Everybody is just struggling like crazy. That it looks like there might be another election. And to be honest with you, if he gets forced out and the Liberals end up winning again, we're going to be even in even worse shape because the person that's next in line is born and bred WEF puppet. So he's yeah, another close confidant of Power Bottom Schwab.
So I didn't know a whole lot about anything to do with Canada's politics or anything. We don't ever hear anything about other countries because we're too self-absorbed with our own selves here in America. we, we, the media here only shows us things that go on overseas.
Yeah.
And if it's not Ukraine or Israel and North Korea and Russia and Iran or whatever, I don't ever see anything about it. That's the evil triad that's being pushed right now seems to be those people from those
Yeah,
countries.
definitely. Yeah, the BRICS nations that are well, yeah, and it's because they're gonna, it's gonna completely destroy the American dollar, right? So,
Hmm.
which
Oh,
is
and
gonna,
China. I forgot China.
yeah, yeah, which that's gonna destroy Canada's economy, which is already it's already destroyed right now. Also, our supreme leader has something called a carbon tax, where if you give him more money, he'll make the weather gooder. So that I'm not really sure how that works. There's all kinds of different scams right now. They had during Fluvid, they had an Arrive Can app, which was Arrive Canada. When you arrived in Canada, you had to go through these things with an app, which ultimately they say would have cost a couple $100,000. Government charged Canadian taxpayers, millions upon millions of dollars for this. They're just laundering money. Ukraine is a laundromat, and Canada sends its money there as well to bring back. So there's a lot of stuff going on with our politics. Even just a few months ago, he was he's in a lot of turmoil, I guess, when it comes to the leaders in India, and they accused him of having a lot of illegal narcotics on his personal plane when he was there. They wouldn't let him leave because he had a lot of drugs on the plane. So, I mean, there's been a lot of scandals generally, and I'm pretty sure America's the same way. But with Canadian politics, a lot of time, if you get caught cheating or divorce your spouse, when you're in politics, you're basically out right away. And our Supreme Leader actually ended up getting separated in 2020, which I reported, and then it got swept under the rug. I think he kind of maybe stepped on someone's toes over the WF, and they decided to out him, and then he went back in the pocket, and they brushed it away. All the major news corporations all canceled it. They all took the information off all their websites and everything. It was like it didn't happen. So I mean, there should be an election soon. I don't know what's going to happen with that election. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to talk about it. It's amazing when you can digest and have so much information, but you can't say anything. It's like being a prisoner in your own body, right? There's not a lot of things I can say when it comes to Canada. Hopefully I wake up tomorrow and I can still access my bank account, but I mean, I guess we'll see. It's tough. Canada is it's not in good shape right now, brother.
Do you think when you're talking with someone like me that they know, I don't want to say like they're spying on you, but like, do they know like some of the things that you talk about? Does it seem like when you talk about certain things with other people, does it cause your bank account stuff to freeze up?
Well, like I said, it's generally only been Twitter. Every time that I was dumb enough to just keep doing it and not kind of associate the two. And then I remember one Friday just thinking, okay, well, this, I tweeted this, and then 8 hours later, like something's got, and then I just noticed this kind of a trend. I mean, of course I can't prove it. So, I mean, call me crazy, call me whatever you want. But I still, honest to God, I've never got an answer from anybody at any bank. And like I said, I've spoken to managers, everybody. They just make excuses. And ultimately, when I leave there, there's no reasoning behind it. As far as what I say to people, I'm not sure actually, because it's Halloween and because of the question you just asked, I'll throw one other thing out there for you, because it kind of goes with what you're saying. So in the summer, like I said to you, I have a little boy, right? My wife and my little boy were gone away. They went away for the weekend. I believe they left on a Friday, and I was at work. I came home, did what I normally do, clean house, do my thing, eat, and then if I have spare time, and I have something that I've been diving into, if I've got, an open manhole with a lot of information I need to get out of there, I'll record a show. Sometimes they're impromptu, sometimes I have guests that I've scheduled, but I decided to record a show with actually with the lady that I was just speaking to you about, a friend of mine that lives in Kentucky, and we did a show, and then we actually did it on the Denver airport. We were talking about the Denver airport and the crazy shit that was going on, the symbolism that they have posted there right now, and then she had asked me to come on her show, so we kind of just did them simultaneously. And as we were speaking, I kind of made the just kind of a jokingly, I called these people energy vampires, right? Because to me, I feel like they steal your luge. Well, you and I spoke about this earlier. It's just kind of a belief that I have, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we recorded these shows. I think I probably watched a movie and went to sleep. And and like I said, my little boy, my son, and my wife are gone away. So Saturday morning, I wake up and I use the washroom and I go out to my kitchen to grab some water and make some coffee. And my kitchen is, my counter is cleaned off. I like to have everything ready for when I get up in the morning for whatever I need to do. And I got up, and I shit you not, I have it as one of my podcast episode cover arts. I got up that morning, and there were, uh, the little plastic fake vampire teeth you get in like vending machines and shit like that.
Yes.
There was a pair of those on my counter.
Hmm.
Nobody was here. Nobody has a key to my house. Nobody, nothing. So I reached out to the lady that I did the show with, and told her what happened. And I was shaken. I was a little bit confused because I mean I'm gonna tell you right now, in all honesty, I can swear on anything. Like my father's passed away. I swear on his ashes. I didn't put those there, and nobody was here. Like everybody was saying, well, who has a key? Nobody has a key to my home. My wife does, and it was just me here. So I mean, I woke up with those there. I remember saying that to the lady that I'd interviewed, and she said, they hear, like they comb through everything and they hear the things that we're talking about, and they're just fucking with you. And I mean, I still can't, I still can't grasp that. I still can't admit that. And there's no way that I think anybody came into this home, but I think it lines up with exactly what you just asked me, and then the fact that it's Halloween. But it's something that I'm never going to forget. My wife and I walked by a pair of those in a store the other day, and I pointed to them. I literally pointed to them and said, I still don't have an answer as to how those fucking teeth got in our house. So, do they know what we're saying? Do they hear what they're saying? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think so. To be honest with you, I think that they have programs that run through everything that gets said on the internet. If you're familiar with the Wallenberg family, they are essentially DARPA, who created the internet. So I think that they want to control it, can't fully control it, but I still think they monitor everything we say for sure.
I think they do. I think
Yeah.
these little things that are sitting here that you're talking through me with, they are literally microphones for every little keyword that gets said. And I don't think there's someone listening. Always, there's not enough people for that. But I think certain things that get said triggers little warnings or recordings or something. Maybe, I'm just tinfoil hat guy over here, but I feel like we have this here, and I'm assuming you probably do in Canada too. But have you ever talked about something and then you start seeing ads for it? Just something
Yeah,
random. When
Yeah, absolutely.
this started like 8 or 9 years ago.
Hmm.
Like we were having a conversation. I was at work and we were talking about Sling TV, which was new at the time that we had just started seeing commercials about it. And then lo and behold, he's scrolling through Facebook on his laptop, and all of a sudden he starts seeing all these suggested ads for Sling TV. Like
Hmm.
we didn't look into it. We were just talking about it. And this was the same time frame. And I've mentioned this before and it's straight up wacky shit, but I needed to get a paper notarized. Basically, here you got to take it to someone that's a notary of the public or whatever, and they stamp it and they have to sign it, like for a legal
Yep.
document type thing. Well, I was literally just thinking, and I didn't have a conversation with anyone about it or whatever. I just knew that there's something I had to do because for work purposes, things had to get stamped by a notary. And I was just thinking, I was like, I wonder what it takes to become one of those. Like, what do they have to do to become a notary? And I started to go to Google and I'm driving, which I don't recommend anyone being on Google and driving. So that's not what I'm condoning here. But I said, how to become, and then it said a notary. Like it finished like, of all the things for it to come up with, why was that the first thing it suggested to me? And I was literally thinking it.
Yeah. Do you use, are you an Apple guy or an Android guy?
I am an Apple person.
Okay, well, that might explain it. So, I mean, of course, just speculation, but yeah, the algorithm knows everything, and well, we've said the same thing here for years. It knows all you have to do is mention something. I feel like a cheeseburger, and you get flooded with ads for burgers. That's them selling your data. Like we are the product, right? They know they want to know what we want when we want it, so they figured out how to find that out. I remember just a few years ago reading reading an article saying that they now possess AI that is so advanced that it can tell you everything about yourself and never be wrong more than once. So if you live 65 years, it might be wrong about something one time, and to the point where it would tell you when you're going to die almost to the minute. And I thought there's no way. There's no way. But then at the same time, I have to understand that, if they show you, hey, we got this shiny new toy that we're just rolling out now, they've had that for 10, 20, 30 years. So, I mean, to think that they don't have the information to be able to do what they're doing, with what you're saying, I mean, absolutely. And then actually, excuse me, the reason I asked if you have an Apple or Android is because I just recently read something that I guess Apple, if this was years ago that this happened to you, apparently there was RFID chips in them that were actually reading brain waves. So basically downloading the information from your earbuds and from your phone that they shouldn't have had access to, but did. So I don't know how much truth there is to that. I haven't really looked at it, but I mean, could explain it.
So that is the only thing I could think of because literally I'd never talked to anyone about it. I never Googled anything about it. I literally was only thinking it and it just popped in my head on the way home. And that's the first thing I started to type. And that's the first thing that is suggested to me. So
Yeah, well, I mean,
it creeped
if
me out and I
Elon
just tossed
says
the
he can
phone
do it,
down.
yeah, yeah. If Elon says he can do it, or they're working on it now, then like to me, like my personal thought, like I said, is they've been able to do it for a long time.
Right.
All the stuff that if you see something in a movie that you think is wild and outlandish, well, where did they get the idea? Do they have it? Probably, yes, right? It's the amazing stuff that they have and we don't know about that we help fund is unbelievable. Whether it's gene altering treatments or technology.
It's just strange to me how things can possibly be. It makes me believe that if they're able to read our thoughts, which again, that's not saying they can, but if that technology exists, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. There's just no way of getting anything over on people if they already know what you're going to be doing all the time. Anyways, you can't even have a conversation or even just like think to each other because they can read it somehow.
Yeah, it's like fighting a psychic, right? Like a true,
Yeah.
yeah, they know every move you're going to make, or a Terminator where it knows all the anticipated outcomes. You just don't really stand much of a chance. I think that's definitely on the table. That it's just people just need to come together and figure out a way to dismantle that.
I've been noticing, and I thought they were jokes at first, but then I decided to go and look. But basically, the Tesla robot.
Yeah, yeah.
I started laughing. I was like, has no one watched any of these movies before? Are we literally
Yeah.
just doing exactly what like all these movies warned us about doing 20, 30, 40 years ago?
hmm Yeah. And putting a little bit too much trust in Elon to me, because like I said, I like hidden history and kind of uncovering things that maybe don't get talked about as much. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that there are people that I think say a lot of stupid shit, but it doesn't mean that everything is. Like the one thing that's kind of where I noticed it the most lately was with Trump is, a lot of people, oh, I just hate Trump. And it's like, okay, well, but does that mean that everything he says is ridiculous or stupid or untrue? No. But you just can't wrap your mind around that and admit it. And I mean, Elon is one of those people to me too. I think people are really instead of believing in themselves or relying on themselves, everybody seems to rely on someone else to figure it out for you. Like, I mean, why is Elon Musk going to figure out what Matt needs? I mean, he doesn't care. He doesn't, I mean, it's not even that he doesn't care. He doesn't even know me. So how could he, right? Elon and what he's doing and what he's telling everybody he's doing is unbelievable. Just the other day, they announced that they're going to now offer couples you can go in and donate your sperm and your egg, and they will grow your baby in a robot body while you just go and live about your lives. I mean, it's like, no, I'll pass on that. Thank you, Elon. People pretending that this guy is some sort of savior, when his mom is shrouded in Osiris and Black Cuba Saturn worship, and so is he. Like, no, thank you. No, I'm good, Elon. Thanks.
I've always thought the guy was a little odd. I feel
Mhm.
like maybe it's just me because I'm poor, but I feel like the super rich people are all awkward.
Yeah,
And like look at Zuckerberg, you look at Musk,
Gates,
they, they,
Bezos.
they all have like a weird quirkiness to themselves.
Mm.
And maybe it's because they don't know how to relate to the average person because they're out here worth billions and billions of dollars. But are they tied into the other 13 families of wealth? Like the actual.
Yes.
So for me, it's like, are they only just be out there to be the face of these corporations and this wealth or whatever that kind of hides the fact that the real string pullers are in the background hiding. They're just the puppets, the pawns I hear.
Yeah, I think a lot of them do. I feel the same way. It's well, they look like they're antisocial, or some people will call them, the nerd or something like that. But to me,
Machines.
that's yeah. Yeah. When people get into that, oh, they were killed years ago. Stuff. Okay, sure, okay, but we still have to deal with this one. So let's just, whatever you want to call them. But the thing, like Gates, for example, is a perfect example. Yeah, he's awkward. Yeah, he seems a little weird, but I think that people forget that he comes from a family that believed extremely heavily in eugenics. And eugenics has now been transformed into the word transhumanism. But what eugenics is believing that you are just a unnecessary eater. You don't need to be here. We're better than you. And we need to get rid of you. Like Gates's father was a prominent member in the Planned Parenthood company, which what his goal with Planned Parenthood was to wipe the African American race off the planet. Like these aren't good people. So I think that that's a big part of it is the fact that they're weird. They got these quirks and everything, but they're also raised from families that have a whole different mindset to the world and everything around them, right? I mean, being a eugenics enthusiast, people don't really seem to wrap their head around the fact that that means that they don't want you to live, right? They don't want you here, and you're just an unnecessary uh, fucking waste of space, right? They're going to try and flush you in your 15-minute city, but not as many of you as you think, is that they really want the population down around 500 million, right? I mean, you're probably not really all that far from Georgia, where the Georgia Guidestones were. And I mean, they only just destroyed them because more people were realizing these are all Masonic symbolisms that tell you right there what they want, and 500 million is the number, right? And so
The-
Gates, Musk, all of them definitely weird. Yes.
I don't know where the Guidestones originated from. I never really looked too much into them. I knew that they got destroyed, and for some reason, I just kind of forgot about all that. I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe
because there's
maybe
so
it's
many
the
psyops
conditioning.
going on, right?
Yeah, maybe it's the conditioning or whatever. But like, I know about the Guidestones. I knew they said some stuff, but who
They had
actually who actually put them out there originally?
the man's name is actually that's one of the things that I dove into years ago, and I've soaked up so much new information that I forgot a lot of it. But to be honest with you, the guy that created them started the funding for them in either 1978 or 1979, and the construction was finished in, I believe, 1980 or 81. The man that he showed up in I can't remember the city's name in Georgia. Like I said, I forgot. I'm sorry, but he showed up. He got the piece of land. He bought the piece of land, and then he started going out and hiring people and getting the building materials for it. When you look at the bill of sales for some of the things that he got, he took his name from an author of a book that also coincides with something along the lines of eugenics and the information that they put on these guidestones. So he didn't use his real name. And I can't, his name escapes me, the one that he stole, but essentially it's in four different languages, I believe, and it tells you, there's what looks to be some Masonic. I mean, there's Masonic symbols on the Guidestones themselves before, but it tells you what they want. The world should never surpass 500 million. That's ultimately the one that most people focus on. The crazy thing is people were vandalizing it and trying to destroy the Georgia Guidestones for 40 years, and they just kept repairing it and they kept fixing it and they kept changing it, and then they put cameras on it because so many people were vandalizing it because I mean, let's face it, they don't want to walk up to a fucking set of guidestones or whatever they are and see the fact that, these people think that we shouldn't be here. The population is only be 500 million. So it was actually the government that destroyed them. So I think they probably got a little bit too much. The whole conspiracy world was starting to really pop off. People were trying to jump into this you know, this realm, and people were really understanding what the Guidestones said. So, I mean, I think that the footage is still there. They bulldozed the shit out of the Guidestones. So, I mean, it wasn't like it was vandals like had been trying to destroy them for years. They were destroyed on purpose, and I'm sure the family that had any sort of ties to them got a nice payout because they had Freemason logos all over them.
I think it's funny to me, like I didn't know all that aspect to it. I didn't know they were, I honestly thought they were put there probably, well, it would have been almost 40 years ago. I thought they were
Yeah,
originated like in the
over, yeah.
80s, but
80, 81 was when they were originated. Yeah.
yeah. So I didn't know much about them until I heard that they were destroyed. That was the first time I'd ever heard of them.
Oh wow, yeah.
So
They've
I
been
don't,
trying for a long time, but
yeah, I'm not saying I'm new to the conspiracy world. I'm new to it with other people. Like I've looked
Mhm.
into stuff on my own, but I never got on social media much and dove into stuff like that because just didn't. I've gotten a lot more knowledgeable since I started doing this show,
Mhm.
but basically all the weird stuff that went on in 2020 is what really got me going down the rabbit hole.
The
So
flu vid and everything.
yeah, I don't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
I don't even say that word. It gets me kicked off of here. That and
Okay, I'm
the
sorry. I'm
V.
sorry. I'm sorry.
No, no, not that one, but the C word. That and the
Yeah, I
V.
don't say it either. Yeah, yeah,
C and V gets me flagged and kicked off and banned for like a week or two.
yeah.
But yeah, it's
Democracy, right? Yeah.
yeah, it's very strange.
It
We have
is. It is.
we
It's
have free speech, but yet we don't have free speech. Like certain words can trigger corporations to shut you down. Weird how that happens.
yeah, yeah. And you would get flagged for me if I went on a tirade and dropped, an hour full of factual information on exactly what you were just talking about, you would get flagged. But people like Rachel Maddow can still have clips up on YouTube and all kinds of other things telling you to go out there and get, number 9, number 10, safe and effective, no issues with that. I mean, it's all driven in, to me, it's a demoralization campaign. It's obviously depopulation, and profit, power, right? You can't 175 years in business and not one cure created. I mean, they're not healers, they're dealers. I don't understand how that information is supposed to be censored. I mean, if you look at the companies that have been the most sued ever company in the world, it rhymes with liar, right? So people like us that get shadow banned and deplatformed for spreading the truth. I mean, all that does is just reinforce the fact that it is the truth, really, right?
Right. When you start to send out messages of you're being demonetized, or the topic of what you're saying goes against the regulations and this, if you're already a conspiracy person, that just means you're getting really close to the truth, because now they're taking notice. So
Mm-hmm.
when they start to ban my stuff, I'm like, oh, I must have hit a nerve on that one. So
100%. Yeah, that's it. That's what the people used to message me all the time when I started getting when my bank account started getting frozen, and say, "You're right over the target. You're right over the target." We've been over the target for a very long time. I just decided to just put it out there, and kind of talk to people about it and do a show, and hopefully have guests on, because I don't want to keep it all to myself. I want people to talk about it as well. I just didn't, I wasn't ready to be shouted down and censored as much as I was. But I mean, I keep rolling with the punches and just trying to figure out other ways to say what I say. I was encouraged to start a TikTok channel, so I mean, I did, and then within a week or 2 weeks, it was canceled, and I shit on for that too. I mean, it doesn't really matter. You have to go with the flow with what the government, with the 1%, with all of them, with what they want, or it doesn't matter. We're at the point now. Obviously, it's not just, oh well, your friends aren't gonna talk to you because you didn't get something poked in your arm. Now you're gonna suffer at work, or whatever it may be. Like, it's unbelievable. And then on the other side, there's never any punishment. Like, that's what I've been saying for years. Is just, I just want accountability. I don't wish any ultimate harm on anybody, unless you're hurting kids. Then yeah, you can be harmed. But I mean, accountability is the number one thing. I'm not sure if you read, but I posted the other day that we were just actually speaking about Mr. Gates is actually on trial in the Netherlands right now. He has seven. There was seven, but one of them died of his side effect. There's actually 6 people that are suing him right now in court in the Netherlands. He's already been to trial once, and he's actually scheduled back in November. I believe November 7th. He takes the stand again against these 6 people. And the funny thing is part of his defense to the judge was the fact that he's not a citizen of the Netherlands, so he shouldn't have to stand trial there. Meanwhile, he's trying to force a one world government, one world currency, and trying to tell everybody that they need to live under one rule, which is, essentially him and the other 1%'s rule. But he doesn't want to actually have to partake in the rules that he's trying to set forth for people. So hopefully he gets there's some accountability there. But I mean, what's he going to do? He's going to get a slap on the wrist. You're not going to see jail time for people like this, in my opinion. I don't believe.
I've always wondered why he was buying up so much land,
Mm.
and why, when we call it the beast just to get around certain things, but when the beast happened in 2020, that he was pushing and pushing and pushing for this miracle thing, and everyone kind of knew, like, he was involved with the whole depopulation of the world.
Mhm.
And now here we are, how many years out, and there's random people dying of strange things, healthier people having heart issues, and it's
Roughly 80 million of them.
right. So kind of strange timing So without tripping up sensors or anything like that, I think everyone listening can understand what I'm referring to. It's very the miracle whip, let's call that. When the mayo came out very quickly, it everyone was all in line to get it put on their sandwiches, and basically the mayo was expired, so now they're having side effects from it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I've run down that. I've been down that rabbit hole since essentially day one. And you know, there's so much information you can find to back up, everything that we're saying. And I remember stumbling upon the insurance companies' information, and that's where you get the unalived numbers, where you can get more
Hmm.
reasonably accurate numbers. And I started going through country by country by country, and it's absolutely devastating, and that's exactly what they wanted. They're getting part of what they wanted. And then you find things like the Deagle Corporation, the Deagle report, which says in 2025 the forecast for your country goes from, I think your population's around 340 million. Is that right?
Something like that, I think.
Yeah, the Deagle Corporation forecasts your population to be at 99 million in 2025. So uh, that's kind of scary. I mean, I went through country by country. My country didn't take a huge hit, but I mean, any any sort of loss of life like that is unbelievable. Whether it's by quote unquote natural disasters or not. I don't think that a population should ever take a hit that's in almost 300 million range. That seems unbelievable to me. With the numbers that I have, what's happened to your country has been it's been pretty bad. But it's not going to stop him. He doesn't bat an eye at it. As soon as he made his money, after he invested his 50 million and pulled out 500 million, then he started telling you about another thing that you should take, which also did exactly what the other thing did. It starts with an R. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean that did just as bad as everything else that he suggested. And then, you still have people thinking that this scumbag eugenics enthusiast is some sort of philanthropist. Like that's one of the fucking funniest things I've ever heard. When you donate money to yourself, you're not a philanthropist, okay? Um, it's like I don't know how that how you do the mental gymnastics there, but for the farmland, for the land itself, like I remember reading that they were telling Americans, offering, whether it was the land that he was buying or the Chinese were buying, or whether it was some other investor that we don't know about, they were offering people with farmlands this concoction that they told the farmers, you either put this on your crops or we'll do it for you. And then they were offering them something like 50 cents an acre. And it's like, what do you do? Well, how do you fight back? Like you see these farmers in different countries that are fighting back and everything, but we don't. I just I don't know how people are going along with that. I don't know. That kind of faded off into the sunset. We got swamped with a billion other psyops in the meantime. Um, but I mean, as far as his control over these countries, like I don't understand how anybody approves of that. I really hope that he gets held accountable in the Netherlands. But I mean, excuse me, I'm skeptical.
Yeah, I don't see anything actually happening with that.
Yeah.
If it if it did, he would just is he even there? Did he even appear up over there?
I think he had to go once and he's due back. Sorry, I think it's actually November 27th that he's scheduled to be back in court. But I mean, he thinks he's above everybody. All these people think they don't have, they want you to, take your car to the scrapyard, but he's going to fly a fucking airplane across the street to get a cheeseburger, right? So, I mean, the fact that people stick up for this or side with it is unbelievable. I don't know if he's going to go back or not. I don't have any confirmation of it yet, but I'm going to watch closely and see what happens. Yeah,
It's
I
not
mean,
it's not like that we'd
sorry?
extradite him over there. If he's be,
Exactly, right.
if
Yeah.
he doesn't go over there, it's not like we're gonna just ship him up and send him over there because he's gotten summoned over to the Netherlands.
No, for sure. They'll protect him because, I mean, he's one of the Democrats' biggest donors. I mean, he owns the election guard software that they're using to count the votes. Sorry, spoiler alert, everybody. It's not 700 senior citizens that are counting 200 million votes. It's something called Election Guard. It's a software program that him and Microsoft own that he uses. And when you dive into what he donated to the Democrats, it vastly outweighs what he donated to the Republicans. So I mean, we know where he's where he's aiming or who he wants elected. Um, excuse me, and they're going to help him in his quest to own most of America, and feed everybody crickets and other dog shit.
The cricket thing is weird to me. But before this was actually even a forced thing, I know my ex brother-in-law enjoyed eating cricket tacos. He was originally from Mexico City, and he was not from a like poorer family. Like he was from a wealthy family, but he enjoyed eating cricket tacos. So maybe it's weird to us, but in other countries it's common. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, hey, do what you want, but like, I mean, my thing is like, sure, go ahead and drink that Coca-Cola, but don't. I mean, you should have the access to the information as to what it is. That's all. Like, if that's what he wants to eat, then it's fine. But don't tell me that that's what I have to eat. Like, I mean, I remember saying
Right.
years ago that the 1% was going to do away with meat. They have all kinds of plans to make you allergic to meat, to make you not want to eat it, to villainize it, and all this shit. I'm sorry, that's not going to work on me. That's not ever going to work on me.
I'm going to
You can
starve to
you
death.
can yeah, you can euthanize billions of chickens and make up some more bullshit for that as well. It's not going to work on me, and I know it's not going to work on tons of other people. Um, the fact that they want to tell you that you have to eat, like, there are certain bacterias in crickets that are very bad for humans. Like, it doesn't take much to figure this stuff out, to just look at it. And it just amazes me that people will, oh, they told us to eat crickets, so that's what we're going to eat. It's like, do people just forget how to question things, or what happened?
I feel like a lot of people just do what the TV tells them to do.
Yeah, yeah,
And
for
it
sure.
it's sad, but that just seems to be how life has become anymore. Is like whatever talking head on the television says, we just listen and don't ever question it.
Yeah, I mean, they're casting, right? Broadcasting. Like, look at the logo of every single one of those corporations. All has, the eye of Providence, right? The Illuminati eye
Hmm.
is it's in every single one of them. And you got those D grade actors that are all reading a script that's all passed through, right? And it's just, I don't know how anybody would want to listen to them. I mean, I get it. Some people, I think a lot of people, I know people that just have, Canadian news on in the background, and they'll even say, oh, just background noise. You don't understand. You're still subconsciously soaking up a lot of what they're saying on there. And I remember people asking me years ago, when they would turn the news on, I'd leave the room or find something else to do. And I'm tired. And this was, 10, 20 years ago. I can't watch this. It's all fear based, right? You never hear, if it's 30 minutes, you hear 26 minutes of, you're dead, you're dying, you're going to die, you're going to die. That's not good for you. And then you hear one story about, how a little girl found her fucking ball across the street, right? And that's
Right.
supposed to pull you through it. It doesn't work like that for me. I didn't want to partake in it. And I think that's helped me. I don't have any political affiliations. I don't support any sort of corporation pushing anything on us. I'm not religious, although I respect it all. Whatever anybody wants to do, that's fine. But you got to turn the TV off and start reading, right? Or just get outside and enjoy things. Although even outside seems to be poison now too, right?
If you look up in the sky. So
Oh,
you-
yeah.
you're from you're from Canada, so I'm going to ask. Last summer, we kept smelling what was like burnt plastic, and they were blaming it on Canada. They were saying because the forests were on fire, it was blowing down here. We used to have a weird haze and a fog, and it just smelled like burnt plastic. And they said it was because Canada's trees were burning from the massive forest fires up there. Do you guys have plastic tree forest in Canada? Because that's literally it smelled like burning trash all the time.
Yeah. Well, um, I guess yes and no. There were there were just remember all those food processing plants and things like that that burnt down in America. Like it was 104 or
Right.
120. You know, that happened here as well. So that was part of it. But every year, our supreme leader has guys with blow torches in boats run around and essentially start up our seasonal fires. And I mean, they there was a Freudian slip not long ago that I remember sharing that where they told people like he actually, whoever it was that said it actually told the truth and said, oh, well, all the fires that we started, right? And it was like, whoa, 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 whoa. They do it on purpose. But the other thing too is, so if there is anything like if there's forestry, or bushes or wetlands that are on fire, and the airflow is heading towards you guys, you're going to smell it like that because they spray it with everything, right? There's aluminum, there's dioxide, there's barium on everything. It's in everything. So the smell, and then coupled with the food plants, the food processing plants that we had that they burnt down purposely, that probably would have been what you smell.
Yeah, because up here, or I mean, up here for down here for us, we were basically being told these were wild forest fires happening, and all of Canada seemed like it was on fire.
No,
But
it's normally it's you're in Ohio, is that right?
Indiana,
Indiana. Okay, sorry. British Columbia is basically I'm kind of in the middle of Canada, but like right in the little jut that's down towards like I'm only just a couple hours away from New York.
hmm
BC is on the coast on the opposite side, and if and when there is ever big instances of fires, that's where it is. So Indiana is nowhere near BC as far as what I can tell. But I mean, they're gonna tell people whatever they want, right? And I remember that we smelt it here as well. There was a weird color in the air. There was a weird smell for sure. I think it probably lasted about a week or so.
yeah, we had it down here for a while, to be honest. That's actually we talked about it on a random episode of a different show that I was doing at the time, and I actually released that segment on this show because I took a break from actually doing Tinfoil Tales, and I was doing my other show at the time that we were running, which was music related. And we talked about the weird smell of plastic and the burnt trees and everything else. So last summer, that's kind of what got me going back into this show again because I took like a break for about 4 months.
Oh, really?
And
Yeah.
I've been, ever since I started back up last summer, I've just hammered it out now. I don't do the other show anymore, and I just focus all 100% on this one at this point. But no, that is one of the things we actually talked about last summer was the weird smelling burnt plastic trees from Canada. Like
Yeah.
it didn't make any sense. Like I would understand if it smelled like regular fire or smoke, but it smells like burnt trash.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then also they do, I mean, I don't see why they would, but they try really adorably to hide 5G towers as trees. It's almost like it's like a dog putting on a cat costume. It's like I don't know who are you trying to fool here. But they do that as well. I mean, I don't see why they would burn those down, but a lot of those 5G towers were lit up. I want to say that I wasn't responsible for them, although I do commend whoever did. Um, but they do them all the time, just like just like the people down there. They do it a lot. They do it often, and try and it's almost like they try and reinforce. Oh well, food costs more. You're paying $78 for a loaf of bread because there was a fire in BC yesterday, and it's like, what are you talking about, right? But yeah, I remember, I think I did a show actually when I first started my podcast. I think I did one on that as well because someone from the United States had asked me about that same thing. That's wild.
Yeah, that's what I think about when I hear of Canada. I just think about the burning trees. All the Canadian forests are made of plastic.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Yeah, and that's the crazy thing about that too is what I was saying earlier. We pay a carbon tax. we have so many trees in Canada, it offsets any sort of pollution that we put out. Like we're one of the cleanest, by size and population, we're one of the cleanest countries in the world. And it's not because our people are amazingly spotless and whatnot. We don't have a massive population. It's spread out pretty well, but it's our trees. We have so many fucking trees. We don't need a carbon tax, right? But I mean, you get people that vote for the goof that's in there right now, the pedo. You get people that vote for him that think, okay, well, he said that, then we better do that. And then, he
Didn't
goes and,
didn't he paint himself up in black face paint at one
yeah,
point?
absolutely. He did blackface. He said that he lost track of how many times he did it. He's dressed up as you could basically make the village people and just put his face on each one of them. He's done pretty much everything. He's made a fool of himself wherever he's gone. Like he completely embarrasses us. And I mean, I hate that because there are a lot of amazing people. I mean, for the most part, Canadians are solid people. They really are. When we let this goofball pedo, kind of represent us. I mean, even he came from he was a drama teacher, and at the high school that he was a drama teacher, he was accused of something inappropriate, and the person that accused him of it and his family got $2.2 million, and signed an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, to never be able to speak of it again. So nobody can ask her and her family about it. But he left his job there and didn't look like he was heterosexual at all, but wanted to get into politics because his father, Pierre, was also prime minister of our country years and years ago. And so, that was kind of the door was open for him. And actually, just in case if any of your audience or yourself is familiar with the Council of 13, the 13 bloodlines, one of the most powerful bloodlines is the Farnese family. And in my research, I found that Farnese is the one that created the Vatican, and Alessandro Farnese is actually 100% a confirmed bloodline relative of Fidel Castro. And I'm sure you're aware there's a lot of speculation that Fidel Castro is the true father of our supreme leader. And I mean, if that's true, then that's kind of where the ties to the bloodlines, to the actual 1%, where that comes in, why he's essentially what seems to be untouchable. I don't know how you do the things that he's done, been accused of the things that he's done, blackface, dressed up in all kinds of different offensive gear. He's offended just about everybody that lives here that, can think for themselves. And he's got away with it. It doesn't look like it's going to stop either. It looks like it's going to be his own cabinet members that force him out.
I've heard a lot of different things about him, but we hear so much more about this stuff down here. We usually hear most of the horror stories here is about Orange Man because
Yeah, yeah,
that is the media's favorite thing to do. And I'll be 100% honest. I'm like you. I'm not affiliated with either side, to be honest. I don't care. I think it's all the same thing. Each side is one side of the head of the snake. Like for me, it's they kind of are one and the other. But
yeah,
that dude is demonized for every little thing. He could come out and
yeah,
say water. He
yeah.
could say water is wet, and someone would be mad. It's
Oh, I think the
crazy.
greatest, 100%. I think the greatest example was when what's her name asked him if he wanted Ukraine to win the war, and he said, "I just want people to stop dying," and they spun it as he doesn't want you. Like, I mean, I don't agree with everything he says. I think he can be very funny. He can be quick witted. I think he's fairly well spoken. A lot more well spoken than Slow Mo Joe or Pedo Pete or whatever you want to call him was. But yeah, I mean, demonizing like that, that's the playbook, that the Marxist playbook, right? Tell everybody that they're doing exactly what you're doing or what you're going to do. And making fun of him or trying to rip him for everything that he says. I mean, fine, go ahead, but do it to both sides. Don't just do it to him. I don't know how you couldn't do it to the town bike over there, Kamala Harris. I don't know how people couldn't shred her. She can't. I mean, she's half of Biden's age and can't make it through fucking most of the sentences. She sounds like she speaks in gypsy curses.
I thought it was funny back in June. It was from legitimate, I say quote unquote legitimate, but the mainstream like news sources, they did like a census on things. And at that time, she was the least approved VP that there had been. Because you never heard you never heard anything that she'd ever done. You never heard her name in the news or anything. Like she just didn't seem to exist. And then when the magic bullet happened, and then Sleepy Man decided to go take a nap and hasn't been seen since. I wonder if he's actually even still alive, but that's another conspiracy. All of a sudden now she has skyrocketed with so much approval. And I was like, did they all just forget what they said about her like just 2 weeks ago? It's funny how that happens, but that's the media for you.
Yeah, I thought I read this exact same thing with the lowest rated
Yep.
VP ever. I thought what I read was she had a 2% approval rating, which it's got to be by far the worst. Even after George Bush gets his disabled cousin to shoot Reagan, I mean his approval rating was still probably higher. But you have the fact that like when you're saying the polls there, that's the one thing that really kind of baffles me is like, if let's say CNN tells people that, we are the number one rated news corporation in the world. Okay, well, that's not true. And I think that to me is the same thing when it comes to polling. I think that I don't think that those numbers are accurate either. I don't care what side they go on. And a lot of the time when you dive into that whole poll thing, they'll be like, oh, well, we polled 1,000 people that, lived in North Dakota. And it's like, well, what kind of fucking poll is that, right?
Someone had told me that they used to work for the media, like for the political stuff for this very purpose. And when they would poll people, they were polling people specifically that they knew in that group would favor the political agenda because the media is owned majorly by the liberal media. That's why they call it that. It's usually the left that runs most of the media. They have their ties with it. So when they do their polls, they're actually asking people that they know are going to give them that percentage. So the percentages are actually accurate, but they're biased in the sense of they're only asking people that are more or less left leaning.
Yeah, that sounds accurate. And they'll tweak it as well. I mean, if like, Bezos owns the Washington Post and this and Gates owns that newspaper, well, I mean, which way they want you to, well, you know what they want. So they're not going to let, the other information out there. It's like when people say, well, why doesn't, I didn't see it on the news. Well, if the news is owned by somebody that, they're not going to they're not going to bad talk themselves or the people they want to support. That's just not how these corporations work anymore. I mean, it hasn't for a long time, but the bias has gotten so much worse. I mean, like what you're saying about Trump. If people can't see the bias there, it's unbelievable. Like I said, go ahead and tear Trump to pieces. That's fine, but just do it for all of them. It's like the people that I talk to right now have, like I was saying to you earlier, a lot of people that I speak to or that follow the show or whatever are Republicans, and they back Donald Trump and what he's doing. And like I say to them, listen, you know how I feel. To me, it's vote Moloch or vote Ball, right? They're both terrible choices. But if he does get elected, just do me the favor and just hold him accountable, right? If he does something, don't make fucking excuses for it. Don't hide it away. Just own the mistakes. Don't be one of those people, right? If Trump gets elected and he does this or does that, like my number one thing, what I used to ask people is if Trump is such a good guy, then why did he put Larry Fink in charge of the Fed? And I still haven't had anybody give me a proper reason. The only thing I generally ever hear is, well, he's got a plan. He knows what he's doing. He's putting those people out there so that you know who they are. It's like, okay,
Trust the plan.
yeah, build that better.
Yeah.
666. I'm gonna actually speak to someone named a guy named Oli Demigard. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's a Swedish guy that's been doing this for like 40 years. To me, he's just a legend. He's a great guy. I'm gonna speak to him on the 25th of November. But he does a huge thing on how the first quote unquote assassination attempt was all just staged. And when I listened to what he had to say and go through it all, like he made some unbelievable points. And it's like, I mean, if he's right, the things that they will do, the measures that they will go to get sympathy or votes or whatever is unfathomable, really.
Right. I I 100% said it the night it happened that was very allowed to happen. One where either it was staged or they wanted it to happen, because I feel this happens all the time here. And I'm not going to go the Alex Jones route here and get sued for billions of dollars. But I think that every time there's a tragedy, it's orchestrated for that reason. And they automatically know who it was. They have photos of these people. They know who they are. Like, they have all this information so quickly, and the media has it so quickly. How could that happen? Like, do they have an ID on them? Like, they're dumb enough to go and do this, but they're dumb enough to keep their ID on it, so they know exactly who this person is. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't make. I mean, with those fucking Satelloons that you have up there, you could pinpoint an ant from 300 miles up, but you can't tell me that. I mean, come on. The fact that have you noticed that every assassination attempt was always done by someone with three names,
right.
right? Like, is that
I've
just a
made that
coincidence?
point. Yes, I've made
Yeah,
that point.
yeah,
Every assassination that usually happens, it's always someone with three names.
yeah. Yeah, actually, you know what? I want to say something. You mentioned Antarctica earlier, and we talked about it. I
Hmm.
found something out the other day. You're familiar with Operation Paperclip and Admiral Richard Byrd and his exploration of Antarctica, are you?
Yes.
Okay, did you know that the building that Oswald allegedly shot JFK from, the Texas Books Depository building, sorry, was actually owned by Admiral Richard Byrd's cousin? He's
No,
the
I
one
didn't.
who he's the one that funded his trips to Antarctica. And JFK was on his way to actually meet with one of the scientists that went with Richard Byrd three times to Antarctica. He was on his way to meet him. He went and got a flag from the White House to present to this man. Like, he had information apparently that was going to be outed about Antarctica. JFK was also interested in sharing information with the Russians so that they could, do joint missions and things like that. Like, I just started to dive into the information. Like, I mean, I've covered Paperclip a lot and Nazi Base 211 and things like that. But finding out that his cousin is the one that, coincidentally, he owned the same building that Oswald, had worked at and apparently shot JFK from, was owned by Richard Byrd's cousin. It was unbelievable to me.
That is news to me. I did not know that. So,
Yeah, I can't wait to go through it and see what I can find. But I mean, I don't know if you've done shows or covered the JFK thing. I haven't really, because it's been done to death, pretty much. But I think there's a lot of information that probably could be uncovered with it. I'm kind of weirded out by the fact that, I mean, I'm sure you probably remember Trump saying that
release
he
it
was
all.
going to yeah, yeah, and then everything was redacted. I mean, in my opinion, I mean, even if he wanted to, I don't think that he could. I think the three-letter agencies are really who kind of runs the country, and I don't think that he would be allowed to release that, as well as the Colonna family running Washington, Columbus family. But kind of strange that these promises get made and then not followed through. But it'd be interesting to get more information on that, definitely.
Yeah. So for me, it's like I haven't done an episode about it. We've kind of talked about it here and there, but
Mhm.
like you said, it's been beaten to death.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that I think I could really dive into that hasn't already been turned over. Unless I can get someone like Jesse Ventura to come on and talk about it, then I might go back down that rabbit hole. But other than that, I don't. I just think it's already been. I think they've admitted it at this point, haven't they? That the CIA was involved.
Oh
So
yeah, the guard the street there, Elm Street there, that was like it was like a assassin's alley just full of people from, it was like John Wick, right? It's just all
mhm.
assassins. The CIA and the Mossad put the contract out. Chucky Nicoletti was that's actually something that maybe people haven't really talked about a lot. It's not something that, I'm breaking here myself, but it was always my opinion that Chucky Nicoletti was the one that actually shot him. He had a lookout man as well who actually has a statue of himself in Florida. But I mean, I don't know. I go back and forth on that, and I haven't really dove into it too hard. I definitely haven't done an episode because, like I said, I think it has been done to death. But I think there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about, what JFK wanted to do, what he was going to do. I think a lot of people, of course, when something like that happens to a president, they get, kind of immortalized, and automatically everybody thinks they're just amazing people. I mean, I don't know if that's really the case with JFK or not, but, I still go down that rabbit hole once in a while. It's just not something I get into too hard. I just don't think people would be interested enough, right?
At this point, I don't know who's interested anymore because even if you talk about certain things, I think a lot of people turn it out anyways.
Yeah, yeah,
I talk
I
about
agree.
we talked about originally. The first thing that got us into all this 9/11, and sometimes I feel like I'm just talking to the wall because it doesn't matter what you say to people; they're never going to believe it.
Which is sad. Maybe some people have come around, but I think that I think the problem is maybe, if something like that happens and then years pass, the more time passes, the more that there's just no way they're ever going to change their mind. You know what I mean? I mean, luckily for me, that wasn't the case with me. I mean, I didn't know, 9/11 is probably one of the things I put the most time and effort into out of any topic I've ever researched or talked about in the show or anything like that. And, I'm always learning new things. I learned a few new things last year that, shit that I kind of Star Trek type things that I never thought were possible. And then, but you keep learning and you realize, okay, this is definitely possible. Have you ever heard of something called, shit, uh, molecular disassociation technology?
I believe so, actually, but I don't know what it
Well,
is.
have you ever seen Star Trek where they just beam someone from the
Ba-
ship to the planet?
like basically teleportation,
Yeah, yeah, like dematerialize something
right?
and then
Yeah.
reform it. So yeah, I was actually I think when I started out the show, I was having a conversation with somebody online about 9/11 and the Bush crime family. I think it was probably one of my first episodes was 9/11 and the Bush crime family. And they brought to my attention. They said check out molecular dissociation technology. And I read it and I thought to myself, what is this? There's no way. And I kind of thought, about what you just said, that it just dematerialized, this is gone. And then you start looking at it and going, okay, well, there's, and it's just easy stuff like that to look at and go, oh, okay, well, that is possible. It like when I remember when I looked at it and the information's out there, the companies have been doing this since like 1993. So it's like, like we were talking about earlier, the technology that they tell you that they have now, that they just got now, they've had it for a very long time, sometimes a lot longer than they're ever going to admit because, they're using your money to create it. And then when you say, well, how come I don't get to utilize it? What do they say? Well, we were just perfecting, right? That was one of the more wild things. I mean, and then when it comes to what's going on right now all over the place, especially what's affecting you guys with the weather. That's actually something else that they had in kind of their back pocket for 9/11, as far as I'm concerned as well. So I mean, those technologies have been around for ages.
I know there's patents to certain things. I've seen a lot of stuff being tossed out there that I know is not accurate. Again, like I said, I even posted something earlier about people spreading things just to push their narrative. But
Yeah.
someone had mentioned, and I've said this on another episode recently, that I saw on there that had like 100 and something people liking and agreeing with it and saying, never has there ever been a storm system that has ever came through the Gulf of Mexico. I was like, what? Don't you remember 2005? New Orleans? Have you ever looked at a map?
Yeah.
Like, where is that located? What about the
Yeah.
one in 16 that hit Houston? Like, I understand what they were referring to. I think they meant because it originated in the Gulf,
Mm.
but
But that's where they get us. That's where they get us, though, right? Is you slip up and you say one thing wrong, like people say chemtrails or contrails, and that gets fact checked and that gets deleted, and that's correct because it's actually supposed to be the real term is SAI, right? So it's like they can easily debunk things and get the people that don't want to hear what you have to say or think you're crazy to go along with thinking you're crazy by them saying you're crazy if you get a word wrong. I mean, I watched them do it with Trump when it came to the sandwiches they were throwing at, like you were talking about earlier. He said something wrong a few years ago, and they jumped all over him, right? But he was actually right when it comes to the hydrocaution. This is like saying there's certain words that I cannot say.
mhm.
There's you've done Bigfoot shows. Well, the white version of that, like the snow version of that, I can't say that guy's name to save my life. And it sounded like I was having a stroke on your show right now. So, but there's certain things that even Trump said, and I mean, it makes you look like an idiot if you say something wrong, right? And that's where they get some of us with weather modification, things like that. I mean, FDR said it in what was it like in 68 that he who controls the weather controls the world. Weather modification was a big, big, big part of Vietnam. Operation Storm Fury. There's tons of different. I mean, yeah, you were saying patent numbers. I have a list on my Facebook page of U.S. geoengineering patents dating all the way back to the 1800s, and I'm about 6 feet two. If you were to put the list just on my screen and scroll, it's bigger than me. I mean, the list is unbelievably long. So, I mean, to be as ignorant as to think that, that's just not possible, it just means you're just not interested in looking. And I mean, of course, like you're right. Some people are going to, they're going to say things the wrong way or maybe just misunderstand or misreport what it is that they're saying. But I mean, these things are absolutely possible. There's a reason that they do these things, right?
Mhm. I don't know if the things that they talk about are like for intents and purposes to confuse people or not, but sometimes the things that get spread, I just feel like it's literally just for that reason, is to just
Yeah,
discredit people.
yeah,
Like it confuses
100%.
the average person. It makes the people that believe in this stuff spreading false information. It confuses everyone else. It's just, but the people that are sharing it believe it because they don't do any research because they've seen it and it kind of falls in line with what they're thinking. So they just go ahead and go along with it. I'm like, you have to go back though and look at it because all you're doing is spreading that misinformation. So you're giving them exactly what they want. They want the
Yeah, you're
spreading the
adding. Yeah,
misinformation because you're adding to it. And then they're like, look, these people are all crazy because they believe in this stuff. And this is proven fake. Look, we can show you. Here's the proof. So these people are all crazy because they're all sharing it and liking it. So you can't take anything they say seriously because this is fake. So everything else is fake.
yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I mean, that's done on purpose. I've said to people before. I think that they know that there's kind of, there's a direction that we want to go, but they always create these little side missions for you, right? Let's go down this way and see what's over here. Oh, they got this going on right now. And then you go over there and look, there's always something else going on. So if I see something get flooded, I know there's something else going on. And I know that they're going to create this shit so that, you start looking at that and you're exactly right. They're going to make a lot of people look foolish because it's either not going to be true, or it's going to they're not going to dig deep enough into it. I remember I made that mistake once over the last couple of years, and I started reporting something that turned out to be bullshit. And instead of fighting and arguing back, It was something that I'd posted on social media, and I edited it and wrote on there, you know what, I'm going to keep this here, and I'm going to admit that I was wrong. I was fooled, whatever it was, but I'm going to keep this here because I want more people to be able to, I'm no fucking leader here, but I want people to see that it's okay to be wrong. Just admit it, right? Like it's okay. But don't get trapped in thinking that, you saw a headline or you saw a meme or whatever it is, and that's that. That's it. Finally, you're absolutely right. You need to actually look through this stuff, find as much information you can, educate yourself on it before you even start talking about it. You go into a conversation and you don't know what you're talking about. It's very easy to get made look like a fool.
That is words that I wish people would actually abide to, just because I get tired of seeing so much stuff out there because I understand people want to seek the truth, but by spreading complete bullshit, you're not finding the truth. You're just muddying the waters even worse for everybody else out there. But
I agree. I know they do it on purpose, and it's not going to end. I mean, I personally, like, I believe that this year we've been flooded with more information than probably ever in the history of time. We have access to just untold amounts of information, whether it's real or not. But just too many people they get confused in the difference between their opinions and what facts are, right? And it shouldn't be as easy as it is to do as it is, but it happens all the time. We see it all the time. I mean, what you're talking about is generally that. A lot of the time is if you're not educated, if you don't know what's really happening, then ultimately all it is an opinion. It's not a fact, and you might be
mhm.
spreading misinformation. You might be talking out of your ass. And a lot of people, it looks to me like they just want to get ahead of it. There's somebody, I can't remember the guy's name, but there's someone that always has tons of videos and a big following and YouTube, Spotify, whatever, big thing. And I mean, I saw the guy the other day tell all of his followers that, um, like all these people are the same. It was like Shia LaBeouf and like Ozzy Osbourne, the same person or something unbelievable, right? And I'm like, see, that's what discredits us right there is dumb
Right.
shit like that, you know?
Yeah, that's I haven't seen that one yet, but it's pretty dumb.
It's ridiculous. And it's like, well, the guy's going, I know for a fact because his teeth are the same. And it's like, okay, okay. No,
So
you
that
don't.
you just discredited everything else you've ever talked about. I keep seeing stuff. I actually unfollowed the person. I don't even know who it was, but literally every single actor, actress, celebrity, athlete, it doesn't matter who, they're always posting pictures, and it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman, they're saying it's the opposite gender.
Yes, yes, me as well. I had someone suggest that to me about a year ago. You need to follow and you need to talk to, and I won't say his name. And I did. Okay, I love people talking to me and giving input, sharing information. I love talking to people and hearing what they have to say because it's a perspective that I haven't even thought of, right? Just talking to you, I have a different perspective. You're from a different place. You have different experiences in life, et cetera, et cetera. So I did. I followed along. And every single person that they ever post a picture of, they tell you this is a man. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, this one maybe I could say, but then it just, it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger or
Right.
Michael Jordan, or it's like, okay, guys, come on, enough's enough. I can see it going the other way a little bit more, but it discredits us a lot. And I think end up getting memory hold, or you end up getting uh, sidetracked with just believing in the shit that you're putting out. Right? You're just feeding an algorithm more garbage.
Right. I had someone reach out to me claiming that the entire world is built on dead bodies of giants and Nephilim and everything else. And like the mountains are actually just dead skeletons. And they're showing me these pictures from the sky, from satellites, and everything was basically just dead bodies. And they're seeing pareidolia with faces and everything. And because I couldn't see it, I'm still too indoctrinated.
Yeah,
And
well, yeah,
everyone,
yeah.
this person knows everything, and he's been in these, he knows, and it's like he's smarter than everyone else. And then like he started getting hostile towards a lot of other people, and then he started getting hostile towards me because I wasn't seeing it. So he started saying that I must be in on the con and the cover up, and I just blocked him on everything
Mhm.
because it's like
Yeah.
you're so far gone, dude, there's no hope. Like at this point, you become one of the unhinged people. Like
Yeah,
when people give bad conspiracy people a name, like the bad name, it's because of people like this.
for sure. And it's a fine line to walk too. It really is because it's so demoralizing. Like when you know or have a somewhat of an understanding as to what's going on, who's in control, what your options are. It is demoralizing. I get that way often. I get real down because it's almost like a burden. Knowing what's going on and not being able to do anything about it is incredibly frustrating. But when end up getting to like, and I mean, the more I know, the more I know, the more I keep going. I've tried to go right for the goal line, not go off on these side missions. I want to go right for the 1%. The the cult ball, the Council 13. I want to get right to the heart of it. But when you end up getting like that, yeah, you can't talk to anybody because you end up getting real bitter. And a lot of people just call those people black pill people, right? There's no hope, or they're just too far gone. And that's what I sometimes worry about is I don't want to get to that point, right? Because I know that it's real bad. It's real bad right now. But there's billions of people out there that don't see it that way, that are still happy, that are still, living their lives and everything. Whether they're still living in ignorance or not, who knows? But that is a little bit too far for me. And I've had that as well myself. Where people just end up getting real angry. I had someone that said that he was that he was in an army overseas for a number of years, and he kept calling himself by this name that I'd never heard. And I had asked him, "Is that your name, or is that the unit you were with?" And then it came out that he was like, "No, that's a part of the Aryan nation." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I had everybody around me going, "Wait, are you friends with fucking Hitler's son or something here?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, what am I doing?" And I thought that the guy sounded really nice. He was really open. He was open-minded. He shared a lot of information. We talked a lot. But then when I realized that, he was essentially just an offshoot of some white supremacist group, I was like, okay, well, I don't want to be part of this, right? So
Right.
sometimes it can get a little bit strange, right? And you don't know what people are really going at, or they want you to get them on the show or whatever. And I don't know, it can get pretty strange, right?
That is my concern when I do interviews with people is I don't do background checks. Like
Yeah.
I've had someone that was interviewed recently, and I'm not going to obviously out that person because I don't really know. But after that interview had came out, someone else had reached out to me and claimed that that person supposedly had assaulted someone in another state, and I shouldn't be talking to people like that because he's full of crap and blah blah. Blah. Like I don't know. like
Yeah.
like this that's
Yeah.
something similar happened on our music podcast last year. The guy claimed that his ex-fiance attacked him, and then we started getting people trolling us and saying he hit her, but she was one that was actually arrested because I did pull up a police report after all that drama happened. So
Yeah, but is that really, our response, yours, mine? Is that really my responsibility is to go and do a fucking background check when
yeah,
we're going to have a conversation about 9/11? It's like, and I mean, some people can change. A lot of people just think everybody's just stuck in their way. And I mean, a lot of people really are. I mean, I studied psychology, sociology, ethics, and things like that. And what they teach you is that once you hit 24 years old, you're stuck. You are who you are, and you will be that way forever. And I just don't agree with that. I think that there are a lot of good people that can change. It's difficult, right?
I
Like I
feel like
always say to
I'm a
people,
lot different from when I was 24 to where I am now.
yeah, absolutely. I do too. And I think when I was 24, I would have fallen for everything that's going on right now. Although I was questioning it, I was more worried about doing what I was doing and living as a 24-year-old kid, right? And I'm not that anymore. So I have different kind of, things that matter to me, right? Which are different. But um, I think a lot of people can come out of it and they can learn. It's just, there is that fine line though, where you can be black pilled. A lot of people want to be red pilled, but once you get that red pill, you're a lot closer to being black pilled than you had any realization that, you might be. It's not all fucking roses out there. It's going to be bad. And there are people out there that, we're going to talk to that might have shady past. I had the same thing when I spoke to someone that said he would be willing to come on and talk to me that was a Freemason. And perfect, like that's kind of that's kind of what I really focus on is, the really deep, conspiracies, Illuminati, Freemasonry, et cetera. So I was like, perfect, right? And then I'd had people reach out and say that, well, he might be this or he might be, and I said, okay, fine, fine. Like I had one guy keep telling me he's going to tell you that they worship God, that they love God, and their God is Satan. And it's like, okay, all right, but I'm going to give him the opportunity to say that. Like I'm not going to do a background check on him. I shouldn't have to do that, right? So, yeah, and viewer discretion is advised, I guess, right?
Yeah. For me, it's like I don't have all the time and money in the world to do a background check on every single person that I'm going to talk to. I interview 3 to 4 people a week.
Yeah.
It's, for me, it's like I just can't do it. So anyone that expects that, I don't know what to tell them. So
Well, move on. I mean, you're not going to like everything that's said, and that's it. You have your fan base and the people that follow you, and they appreciate you for what you do, and they understand that that's not possible. I mean, I'm in the same boat. I'm a father. I'm a family man. I have to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week. I don't have time to do all that. If I'm lucky enough to get people that want to sit down and have a conversation and share information or tell me about their experiences, I'm all for it. I only just tell them I'm not going to censor anything you say. You can say whatever you want, but just try and have some tact, right? Like let's just keep it kind of civil and stuff like that. Um, and I mean, for the most part, I think it's always been like that from the show, which is great. But have you? I meant to ask you, have you spoken to anybody about? I think I was looking through, and I think you did, but just to let me know, have you spoken to anybody about Dogman and Sasquatch in Virginia?
not yes, actually. I don't know if it was in Virginia or North Carolina. I've talked to people
Oh,
about some of that stuff, but I don't know
how did
the
you? Don't know the state. Okay, yeah, 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 okay. I just remember hearing this amazing story about the two of them, and I'm pretty sure it was a kid in Virginia, and I wanted to track him down. But do you are you of the belief that either of them do exist or no?
I will go ahead and say yes.
Yeah, okay. Do you believe that they are how do I put it? Do you think that they're from this planet or from this dimension or somewhere else?
I believe if they are real, there are manifestations from a different plane of existence that bleeds into our own reality, from a different frequency, a different realm, I don't know what it would be. I don't think they're a flesh and blood, undiscovered creature from here.
I think that's kind of my belief of it. That's a topic that I'm basically just a newbie to. I mean, I could talk about hundreds of other topics that I feel confident in that I've done, tons of homework research on it, but that's one that I wanted to get into. And the one thing that I always found interesting is, excuse me, when people talk about Sasquatch is the smell. And that's something that I'd heard even when I was a kid, whether it's movies or goofy movies or whatever, or whether it's bullshit documentaries or they're real or not. But the smell was something always people talked about. And I was just wondering, is that like the one thing that I think I heard someone talk about is the smell is because it is completely radioactive. Like if you were to, be close to a Bigfoot for, not a long period of time, you would probably die of radiation poisoning, cancer, et cetera. Is that something that you think is accurate or?
I haven't heard that portion of it. Most explanations that I've heard is it stinks because they don't clean themselves. So it's just like any type
Yeah,
of primate, like people stink if they don't take baths. So imagine this thing out there
100%.
wallering around, sweating, and everything else it does. It's going to have that big old musky, dingleberried piss smell of itself. So
I think so too. Yeah. I've just heard that even if, like, I think I heard someone say before that even if one of them dies and I mean, of course, I'm sure there's no, uh, you know, Bigfoot cemetery, so they're not getting buried. what I heard is like the vegetation around it all ends up being destroyed. Like if you were to find a Bigfoot carcass that had, had even been grown over, that the radiation from it would kill everything around it. And the reason that it's so radioactive, what I was reading or listening to, I can't remember, was that it does come from a different plane of existence, a different realm where, everything is just different, right? And I just thought that was fascinating.
I would tend to agree with that. I will talk to you more about that here off air because I've got a lot more stuff that we can talk about when it comes to stuff like that because cryptids is my bread and butter.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But
you know what? I mean, if you'd ever be interested, that'd be something that I'd love to have you, come on and sit down and talk to me about. We could do an episode about that. That'd be great.
yeah, that's something we can work out here off air. So
Sounds great.
we can probably wrap this one up. We've been going on for about 2 hours now, too.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, I gotta work at 5 a.m., so I guess so.
I now on vacation for the rest of this week. So we're making a trip this weekend down to Tennessee. And
Beautiful.
there's some other things in the background that I'll talk to you about here off air. But yeah, basically, I took the rest of this week off. We're going to take a trip and have some family time and some other stuff, but good times.
Awesome,
No,
and enjoy it.
it's been a pleasure talking with you. You and I have a lot in common. I think when the same sort of mindsets. I think you've researched things a lot more than I do because I don't do a whole lot of research into stuff. Like I do some here and there, but I'm afraid because I know how I am that I would let it
Yeah.
consume me.
Yeah.
I'm very much, my wife says, a hyperfixator. Like if I get into something, I don't stop.
Go full blown. Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, I have to have boundaries. I have to know
I
that.
respect that.
So that's why I do my show, and this is my way of investigating. Because otherwise, I'd be so far down the rabbit hole, I'd be telling people we live on dead giants.
Yeah, no, I hear that, man. I have to forcefully stop myself a lot of the time because this is something that I really like. I really actually enjoy. When you get to do something that you enjoy. I mean, I don't get paid for it, and maybe one day in the future, who knows? It's not for that. But I kind of feel the same way. There's a lot of times where I get to points where I'm researching things and I have to force myself to stop. Um, I often like I'll just stop and say, okay, I need to just read something else or watch a TV show or a movie, and then I get halfway through that and I find myself going back to what I was doing. It's like it doesn't stop.
Right.
But I mean, I do it because I want to, and I want to be able to at least hopefully, try and prepare for my family for when I'm gone, what to look for, what to maybe try and do, the path that we want to go to break away from, where we are and what we're kind of tied to, whether that's possible or not, I don't know. But we'll see. And man, I just want to say thank you. And I appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Definitely been a pleasure. For anyone out there listening, do you want to let them know where they can find you at?
Please, yes. You can find me lifelog/Facebook. My page is called Loyal to the Foil. I'm on X or Twitter. I'm Marty McSuperfly, and on every platform, every other platform, YouTube. I don't really do that because I would be, deplatformed in a second. But my son asked me to, so I did. So the channel is on every platform, on Rumble, on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple, Castbox, all the streaming platforms. It's all Loyal to the Foil. If anybody likes the content, please just drop me a like, comment all you want, and subscribe. I appreciate it.
Awesome. For anyone out there listening, check out Loyal to the Foil. We share the same little foil name here,
Yes.
but the brothers in foil. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you. We're going to wrap this one up. So, again, thanks to Matt. Make sure to check out Loyal to the Foil. Thanks for listening. Good night, everybody. And that's the show, everyone. I really hope you guys enjoyed the conversations. If you would like to be a guest on Tinfoil Tales, remember to send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com or go to the contact section of tinfoiltales.com. Just get your message to me. We'll get something scheduled for a future episode. And just remember, the truth lies in the stories we share, the connections we make. Stay curious, stay open-minded. Thank you all for joining us on this journey. And until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep exploring the unknown. Good night, everyone.
Tinfoil Tales in my headphones. Yeah, it's time to rock. Got a story about a cryptid creature. Let's take a walk. Bigfoot, dogman, they're out there in the dark. But the truth is out there like an alien spark. UFO sightings got the whole world shook. Conspiracies unfold like a story in a book. Media control, trying to keep us blind. But I won't be fooled, gonna use my own mind. In history, they don't want us to know the secrets they hide, the truth they won't show. Dominant of society, they keep us in chains. But I'm standing tall, it's time to break the reins. Of control, trying to keep us blind. But I won't be fooled, gonna use my own mind. In history